Here. I'm going to give you a morning recap. I am live from trial. Let me see if I can do it sideways. I don't know if it'll work this way. Nope. There we go. Okay, it's not working. Hold on. Orientation locked. Oh, okay, I'm gonna just keep going from this way. So this is live from the Diddy trial. Hop on in here. Let me see, make sure it is streaming that you guys can see me. Yep. Okay, you got it. All right. So here's the morning recap. The bombshells this morning, just like I thought, the testimony from Capricorn Clark was given with, now you can see me. So the testimony from Capricorn Clark, and I can see the comments, so feel free to drop your questions. So the big bombshells are this: we got the kidnapping testimony. So first and foremost, remember, many thought that the kidnapping charge in the indictment was going to be Cassie. It is not. There are two references to kidnapping in the indictment, one in California, one in New York. And actually, I think there were two New Yorks. All of the kidnapping is Capricorn Clark, and that's what she testified about today. So I'm going to break down a bit of that testimony, as well as the strengths or weaknesses for both sides. So the prosecution puts on Capricorn Clark. The goal of her testimony was to talk about the organization, to talk about the means and how they operated. So the main things that she helped support were RICO charges. You know, there was a little stuff related to the trafficking. That would be when she talked about witnessing Cassie's beatdowns, but really her testimony was strong for RICO. Here's why. For RICO, first you have to show that it's an enterprise. We know it's an enterprise. It's called Sean Combs Enterprises. But you also have to show that they did things for a criminal, they performed criminal activities. Some of the criminal activities that she talked about was, number one, whenever he'd do these beatdowns or he threatened people, he'd always have his security there. Security is his staff, therefore that is a co-conspirator. Y'all, at some point in this trial, the prosecution is going to call, hey, mama and that baby, thank you so much for the super chat. At some point in this trial, the prosecution is going to have to start calling his security. And his security is either going to have to testify under immunity or risk going to jail. Remember, if the prosecution gives his security immunity, they have to testify. They absolutely have to. So she talked about how basically his security was always with him when he was committing crimes. And remember, security is his staff. That's what makes it part of RICO. She also talked about narcotics distribution, substances. She talked about obtaining them for him. There was even an incident where he asked for some for someone else, like the powder. They were in the south of France. He said he wanted her to obtain some powder for him. She said, who is it for? I'm not doing that. He said, it ain't me, Ian. Talk about it wasn't him. And she said on testimony, the reason she did not want to obtain substances, especially powder, for him is her mother overdosed of that, and that's how her mom died. Now, mind you, Capricorn, when she took on this role, she was in a bit of a vulnerable position. By role, I mean when she first started for Bad Boy, because she talked about at the end of high school, her father died, and then her mother died soon after. So effectively, she was a young girl. She was an orphan. She had no parents. She dropped out of college. She didn't finish college. So this job and this success was her everything. So he testified to that. Now let's get into this RICO. This was excellent. Overall, I want to say this was good evidence of kidnapping. But here's the challenge. The challenge is going to be, every time she got kidnapped, she came back and worked for the man. Every time she got kidnapped, she came back and worked too. Including on cross-examination, the defense was able to elicit, thank you guys, hit that subscribe button as you're coming in and hit that like. As on cross-examination, the defense was able to even elicit that as soon as 2024, she was trying to come back and work for Diddy. Now, the reason why is she don't have no degree. She can't just go anywhere and pick up a marketing job with no college degree, you know, and make six figures, etc. She actually never made six figures with Puff, but she was limited, and she also talked about him blackballing her. But let's start with the kidnapping. The first kidnapping was when she first started working for Puff. So she talked about a headhunter. She was in her 20s at this point. I think she was around 26, 28. A headhunter found her resume. She was with Def Jam and recruited her to come over. Now, they also knew that she had previously worked for Suge Knight's record label. Her best friend is one of Suge's baby's mamas. So the first time Diddy kidnapped her, it was at Pow Pow Point back in about 2004. She said he came and got her. It was about 9 o'clock at night with his security driver, drove her into Central Park. Y'all, Central Park is scary as hell at night. Central Park is frightening. Drove her in there and basically confronted her and said, "You didn't tell me you worked for Suge." And in her defense, she's like, I came over from a headhunter. I thought you knew everything about me. The headhunter called me for this role, so I thought you liked the fact that I had this experience. In the end, he was like, "No, I'm gonna just let you know if anything happens, you're gonna come up missing. If anything happens, you're gonna come up missing," which she took to be a threat that she would be unalived if he did not trust her. So they asked her, "Well, how come you didn't quit after that?" She was like, "Because I felt like at that point he didn't trust me. So the last thing, she should do at that point is stop coming to work." So, thank you so much, Nicole Renee, for the super chat. Yes, thank you so much. So that was the first kidnapping. Y'all, the second one, she was basically his assistant. They were on the way to Miami. She was supposed to be holding some jewelry for him. The jewelry comes up missing, and they decide that she likely stole the jewelry for not 1 day, not 2, but basically in the morning, early morning, like I think it was like 5, 7 in the morning. His security comes and gets her, drives her to an abandoned building. Think Power, like on Power when they be having shootouts in these abandoned buildings. Drives her to an abandoned building, puts her in there, locks her in there, locks the door, and brings her up to like the 6th floor where there's this big fat man. She said he's the size of like 5 people, but this big fat sumo wrestler is in there, and he administers to her a lie detector. She takes a lie detector for 5 days, y'all. I know, it's New York City, y'all, all this, for 5 days. Can you imagine? And so every day he would pick her up like 5, 7 in the morning for the whole entire workday, just ask her questions, try to catch her in it. The first day he told her, "Oh, it's inconclusive. It's inconclusive. So I'm not done with you. It's inconclusive." Each day for 5 days, y'all. Now, so this was the second kidnapping. That was the second one. Now, of course, the defense is going to make it, "Hey, this wasn't kidnapping, guys. This is an HR issue." She could have called HR. She didn't. Y'all, if you were brought to what looked like the set of a power drug fight. Thank you, Riri. Thank you so much for the super chat. If you were brought in that environment, would you really think you could leave? Mind you, his security brought her there, locked the door. After that, when she got there, she was on the 6th floor, and she is tied up to the lie detector for 5 days. She said at the end of that, she never heard one way or the other about it. She never heard from Sean Combs. She don't even know if they ever found the jewelry. I'm wondering if this was just a ploy to like mind screw her. I'm curious because it's just crazy that, okay, you don't ever hear anything about it from your boss. It was also clever because the defense is going to try to distance Diddy from that by saying Diddy didn't know what was going on. Diddy was in Miami. But we saw from Cassie's email to her mom in Capricorn that Diddy's mode of operation is whenever he commits crimes, baby, he's out of town. His hands are clean. Can't link him. So for 5 days, she was but here's the thing. Each day for the 5-day lie detector situation, they pick her up in the morning, make her do that for the entire workday. She said she was scared. Oh, and specifically, they told her, if we find out that you are lying, we're going to throw you in the river. We all know what that means in New York. If you ever watch, we're going to throw you in the river. In other words, we will unalive you if we find out that you're lying. So that's why it's kidnapping. Yes, they picked her up in the morning and they brought her home at night. And then they did it again. But kidnapping is where you are not free to leave. You're not free to leave. Okay? Kidnapping is also where it is done with threats and threats of force. They told her, if you don't pass this bad boy, this lie detector, we throwing you in the river, baby girl. So then y'all, okay, so that was the second kidnapping. Now here's the third one. Y'all, this is why people all the time say, the kidnapping was Cassie. It could have been. But remember, I told you guys, in the indictment, it lists the California incident for kidnapping. And I told you guys, it wasn't Cassie, because if it was in California, kidnapping statute of limitations, they could have used kidnapping to get Diddy for the hotel incident. But it does not satisfy what happened with her with Cassie didn't satisfy the California definition of kidnapping because they did not drive her they did not move her what's called a substantial distance. But with Capricorn, they did. Diddy, so what happened is Diddy shows up at Capricorn Clark's apartment. He had never been to her apartment before. Never showed up there before. He shows up at 5 o'clock in the morning at Pow Pow Point. At Pow Pow Point. And he says, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me she was messing with Cuddy? You get in this car now, you get in, and we about to go find Cuddy, and we about to unalive that in. We're about to unalive that in, is what he told her. She was like, no, I don't want to go. No, he said, you don't have a choice. Get in the car. Get in the car. So she gets in the car, and because remember, before I was like, well, why did Diddy need to ask Cassie for old boy's address if Capricorn took him? Well, Capricorn took him at Pow Pow Point. It was not voluntarily. This, ladies and gentlemen, is California kidnapping. No questions asked. Today was evidence of kidnapping. Now, if you feel like the New York kidnapping, there was 2 New York incidents. Remember, if you feel like the New York kidnapping was an HR matter, that's fine. There's no way, I don't see a way I'm at the courthouse, yes. I don't see a way for them to get around this California kidnapping. This is the Kid Cudi incident. So what she says is at Pow Pow Point, he shows up at her house at 5 in the morning, between 5:30 and like 6, she says, and demands that she take him to Kid Cudi. He was like, why, what's going on? And he said, because we about to kill that, we're about to unalive that MFer. She's freaking out. She was like, no, I don't want to go, I don't know. It's him, Diddy's in the car, his driver, his security. They said Diddy usually sits in the front driver's side seat, like when he's riding. But in this instance, he had her in the back and he sat next to her in the back and was making her tell him exactly where. She knew where Kid Cudi lived because she'd been there before with Cassie, when Cassie was dating him. Also, prior to this, she testified that she found out Cassie was dating him, right? That they were more than just friends. And she told Cassie, what are you doing? You're going to get us killed.
Sorry to interrupt you. I'm going to turn on the irrigation system.
Oh, thank you so much for letting me know. Yeah, I don't want to get wet. I really appreciate you. Yeah, so girl, y'all got to move so I don't get wet with the sprinklers finna come on me. But so Capricorn testified. She said, she told Cassie, what are you doing using the phone that Diddy bought you to communicate with Kid Cudi? Girl, she said on the stand, you're going to get us both killed. Listen, Diddy told her, if you don't come with me to go get Cassie, to go get Kid Cudi, I'm going to unalive you. So those threats were there the whole time. Well, she said when she realized Cassie was communicating on, Diddy's phone that Diddy paid for, she went and bought Cassie a burner phone, gives her the burner phone. Well, when they pull up to Kid Cudi's house, they isn't her. So Capricorn has been kidnapped, brought to Kid Cudi's house. She's sitting out front, and they go in the house. So Diddy and his boys go in the house. That's when they rummage through everything. They burglarize the house. Here's the thing. Unfortunately, burglary is not one of the RICO offenses. If it was, that too would have been proven up. But for whatever reason, it's not in the indictment, because that was absolutely burglary, whether the door was open or not. Yes, I am in the courthouse today. Well, so she said as they're in the house, as Diddy's in the house, she's sitting in the car and she gets out her phone and she calls Cassie on the burner. She's like, girl, get out of there. Diddy is on his way to cut. We are at Cudi's house. Diddy is here trying to unalive him. She hears in the background, he's at my house. Apparently, Cassie was with Cudi. Cudi heard it. She's like, he's at my house. I'm leaving. Like, he's leaving. Cudi was like, I'm leaving. He was going to go up there. She was like, no, don't. He's going to get unalived. Like, Diddy is going to unalive him, right? So then so they hang up. She's still sitting there out front. Please tell me why she's sitting there out front. And she realizes, oh, shoot, I better change the name from, like, Cassie Backup in her phone to, she changes it to her best friend's name in the phone. Just as she does that, Diddy comes out the house and says, who are you on the phone with? And she just looks at him. She says, who were you on the phone with? She hit that like, y'all. We've got 1,700 watching. We only got 200, almost 277 likes. Hit that like and the subscribe. Diddy say, who are you talking to? She hands him the phone. Now, remember, it says Stormy, her BFF. She had just switched it. He calls that number back. It's Cassie. He is hot. He's telling her. So then he tells her, y'all. He like cuts her out. I was like, bitch. He cusses her out. Then he says, y'all. Okay. So then she says, all of a sudden they hear like a motor. It's Kid Cudi driving down the street, like pulling up. He has like booked it, sped it to pull up to his house since he know that Puff is there. Then I guess it dawns on him like, you know, Puff got pow pals, Puff got security, all of the things. So he pulls up, sees Puff, and he drives off. Y'all, Puff takes off. Puff starts chasing him. Puff and Puff's driver, they then start chasing him. They chase him for a while. Then they see cops. They see cops because apparently Cudi has called the cops to his house because he's, you know, found out that Diddy's there. So that kind of makes Diddy calm down. He's like, all right, trying to think sane. So Diddy then tells Capricorn, you and Cassie, y'all better make sure Cudi doesn't call the cops. If he calls the cops, I'm unaliving all y'all. If he calls the cops, I'm unaliving y'all. What is that, y'all? That's another RICO offense. That is tampering with witnesses. So her testimony alone has elicited evidence of kidnapping on 3 occasions. I think the strongest is going to be the one where at Pow Pow Point in California, Diddy forced her to bring him to Cudi's house. And then it's tampering with witness because he said, do not let that man tell the cops my name. If he does, all y'all gonna come up missing. So sure enough, Capricorn calls Cudi, was like, look, you can't say Diddy's name. If you say Diddy's name, he's going to hurt us all. And so Cudi never told the cops Diddy's name, y'all. Never. Cudi never mentioned the car chase on testimony. When he was on the stand, he did not mention the car chase. Now, that doesn't mean it didn't happen. It could also be related to the questions he was specifically asked. Because remember, you're supposed to only ask the questions that were asked. But it would have been interesting if they had asked him, why didn't you ever give the cops his name? You know, was it, and then he could have elicited, well, because Capricorn told me not to. Now, I wasn't there in the court that day, but it's my understanding that he did not, we know he didn't mention the car chase, but also that he never mentioned, hey, I never told the cops that it was him because I didn't want to come up unalived as threatened. Also, because that would have also made the arson claim stronger. Also, remember I told y'all, I was like, well, they should have solicited records from his insurance company to see what did he tell the insurance. Trust and believe. If he had told his insurance company that Diddy did this, the insurance would have literally assigned a specific investigator. Because within insurance, when it is any type of intentional act, they don't want to pay out that claim. And whenever there's arson, it's always assumed that it's some type of intentional, like, insurance scam, right? So that would have been a good way to, like, not tell the cops, but tell his insurance, who would have got the cops involved. Either way, Capricorn called Cudi and called Cassie and was like, look, do not mention the cops. You cannot do that or it will get us all unalived. So then on cross, they asked her, well, how come you didn't tell the police? She was like, well, that would have defeated the whole purpose of trying to get Cudi to not call the cops so that we all didn't come up missing. Because he said Diddy said he was going to unalive all 3 of them. So then it went on. Now, so that was the kidnapping testimony, y'all. Okay? So then, though, what was helpful for the defense so far is going in, talking about the fact, first of all, the defense opened with a text message from 2021 where Capricorn was saying she used to have a crush on Diddy. Nobody really cares, but I know Diddy loved that part because it, you know, not only does it make him look like a ladies' man, but it also made it look like, oh, maybe she had a thing for him. But here's what I really think she was trying to do that. If you've ever dealt with a narcissist, you know you got to butter them up before you ask for something. And what she testified to is she was asking for a role, a job back, because effectively he blackballed her from the industry and she's not been able to have any substantive, powerful, gainful employment since leaving Diddy. But here's the fact that it is super helpful for the defense, which is that she referenced being basically fired from him or leaving him or having some type of traumatic situation and then leaving, working for Diddy 3 or 4 times. Every time she would come back. Even after the Kid Cudi incident, she came back and still wanted another job. So with Kid Cudi, after the Kid Cudi incident, she said that happened in January of 12. And around March, she told Harvey Pierre. And Harvey Pierre said, oh man, yo, he said, she was like, Harv, he kidnapped me at Pow Pow Point and threatened took me with him and tried to unalive Kid Cudi because he was messing with Cassie. Harvey was like, yo, man, that's wild. Ooh, that's crazy. But don't worry, you're okay. You're good. You're good. Soon after that, she talked about basically being told that she would need to give notice, basically that she would be given notice that she was fired. They ultimately said in that year, 2012, she was fired for failing to put in proper notice of vacation. Mind you, it was the first time she ever asked for vacation the whole time she'd ever worked for Diddy, which was off and on since '04. So what she actually did is she filed a retaliation lawsuit, or she hired a lawyer and settled out of court a like unlawful retaliation lawsuit, wrongful termination lawsuit. And she got some money for that. Now here's what was interesting. When the prosecution tried to elicit how much she was paid for that, defense successfully objected. So here's my legal mind. Here's what I was thinking. I was like, wait. The defense specifically wanted, when it was Cassie on the stand, y'all, they wanted the jury to know that Cassie got $10 million from the hotel. Prosecution didn't elicit that. The defense wanted the jury to know all Cassie's money that she got. The defense elicited, didn't you get 10 million, 20 from Puff? Yes. Didn't you get 10 million from the hotel? So I was like, legally, why wouldn't they want anyone to know how much Capricorn settled for? I'm gonna tell you why. Because it wasn't much. It was piddly pieces. It was a tiny amount. It was not enough to be life-changing. See, Diddy wanted those other amounts, and it wasn't enough to be life-changing, and it wasn't enough to come on the stand and lie. She has no pending civil suits. She has nothing outstanding where she could get paid from him, right? So I found it so interesting that the defense was like, oh, no. We don't want you to basically talk about it. It was probably like a little, I would say probably low six figures, right? She might have get 100,000, 200,000, I don't know, something like that, right? But because the most, when she started, she was only getting paid $65K. Y'all, that white boy talked about, he got 75, the first white boy. And then the second one was in the 100,000s. She got $65K and worked from 9 a.m. to 4 a.m. on the regular. And then when she left and came back, he upped it at one point to $90K. But that's the most she ever made. Now, mind you, he paid them boys, he paid them white boys a lot more. The one white boy, he gave him $125K. They were all doing the same role. In fact, the first white boy, the heavy set one, there are pictures of him and Capricorn. They both did the same role. So what I'm saying here is, so ultimately, Capricorn kept coming back to try and work for him, in part because she couldn't work, she could not get hired. She even talked about getting a job and then it mysteriously falling through last minute. She was excited. She finally got another role post-Puff and it fell through. So she came back to him. But here's the thing. In 2024, y'all, April 2024, she had a lawyer. Her lawyer reached out. So remember, she had a settlement of some sort, some piddly little settlement in 2012 for the wrongful termination. You can't not terminate someone for going to HR and saying, oh, by the way, my boss kidnapped me at Pow Pow Point. That's what happened. She literally went to HR, told HR that her boss had had kidnapped her at Pow Pow and threatened to unalive Kid Cudi. And then they found a technicality and were like, oh, we're firing you for failure to properly ask for leave. Now that's what they said. That was 12. Follow up to 2024. Here's the problem. In 2024, she hires a lawyer to negotiate returning to him to basically do his crisis management, be his chief of staff, and kind of redeem the whole thing. Now, mind you, at this point, KK has quit. Now, his lawyers, though, tell her lawyer, there's a criminal investigation going on. There's no way we can hire you during the midst of a criminal investigation. There's no way to hire you back during the midst of a criminal investigation. So the weakness in her testimony is going to be that jurors are going to say, well, wait a minute, if he was so bad, why did you keep coming back as soon as a year ago and try and work for him? If he kidnapped you 3 times, if he did this. But I think anyone who knows what it's like to be in a dream job, lose it, and get blackballed, you know, including what she had told his attorneys, is that she would get him into rehab. She would get him off the substances. She would do all that she could to rehabilitate him. But yeah, I think as far as jurors go. That's going to be a powwow with the jurors. They're going to really have to hash out, was this really a kidnapping? Was this really substantial enough? If as soon as a year ago, she's trying to come back as his chief of staff to put him in rehab, redeem him, and help him get his life back on track. Mind you, the most she ever made working for him was $90,000. So of course, if she came in at crisis management doing this now, that would be, but this is Capricorn Clark. So this is not KK, this is CC. KK is Katrina Coram. But we got 8 more minutes and we're gonna go back in at 1 o'clock. Drop your questions below. Please share this on various platforms. Share it on Twitter, share it wherever. Drop your questions below. I will be back after the trial to give an additional recap. But so far, again, we've got more RICO. She testified to tampering with witness, arson, substance distribution. We got 3 RICO offenses there. Can't wait to see this cross-examination. So far, the defense is doing a strong job. She was really holding it. She was crying, and she's, bless her heart, she's holding it together as best as she can. See you guys later. Bye. Live from New York City at the Diddy trial.